The door has not officially opened for candidates to apply for the 2018 presidential election in Egypt. But Khaled Ali declared his willingness to run in a challenge against President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The 45-year-old human rights lawyer says his candidacy is conditional.
Our printing facility was raided by the police, who confiscated our planned presidential brochures. We're not waiting for their permission to run. If we feel the conditions are fair, we will participate in these elections. Otherwise, we will boycott it and will call Egyptians to clear the streets on election day so that el-Sisi would enter these elections alone.
Ali ran for president in 2012 on a platform of social justice and defending workers' rights. He was knocked out early in the process after only getting about 134,000 votes. Supporters of Ali say he may be more fortunate next year.
Many things have changed between 2012 and 2018. And considering also the experience of the Egyptian people over the past 4 years, whereby President Sisi did not meet any of the promises that he made after the removal of the Muslim Brotherhood in 2013. There were lots of suspicions, lots of fears. Terrorism was at its peak. Right now, all those conditions have changed, and that's why he decided to change his mind and that he wants to run again.
Earlier this year, Ali gained attention after he won a case that nullified an Egyptian government deal to hand over 2 Red Sea islands to Saudi Arabia. President el-Sisi's term expires in June next year, and he hasn't yet announced his intentions to run for a second term. If he does, as expected, Khaled Ali will have an uphill fight. Sisi won 97% of the votes in 2014.
With this press conference, Mr. Khaled Ali has blown the whistle for the Egyptian presidential race much earlier than it was expected. The Egyptian Elections Committee hasn't yet announced the guidelines that will regulate this race. Mr. Khaled Ali has become the first Egyptian to announce his candidacy for the 2018 race. Adel, Mahrouky, CGTN, Cairo.
Well, Adel el-Mahrouky has more on this story for us. He joins us now live from our Cairo studio. Adel, some might say a premature announcement. Just tell us a little more about this candidate and why he stated his presidential intentions now.
Well, Khaled Ali is a leftist in terms of political ideologies, and he has always been critical of the administration, the current administration led by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. That was the main turning point for him was when he defended an agreement, or he stood against an agreement between Egypt and Saudi Arabia to cede 2 Red Sea islands. There was a popular protest in the street for the first time against President el-Sisi since he took office, and Khaled seemed to be more or less the leader of that movement. And he wants to build on that politically. He has run before, as you've heard in the report, but he believes that with his announcement, so he did not confirm that he will be a candidate yet. He still has to fulfill whatever requirements that will be announced by the Elections Committee. But what he's saying is that he's giving the opportunity to the government to give the room for him or any other possible candidates to run. And if basically what he means by his announcement is to ask for guarantees from the government that the elections will be fair and they will be given the free and full right to speak and tour the country. Otherwise, he will move on and, as you've heard, also to boycott. But it's also an announcement for participation. He's calling for volunteers. He's calling for those to review the vision he has so that he would, when he runs, he would provide to the public a presidential plan that is formed by political activists and by the people themselves, and he believes this might make him more successful.
And meanwhile, of course, we know that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi did speak last night. No official announcement as yet from him, but has he at least hinted at running for another term?
Well, yes, during the World Youth Forum that is taking place in the city of Sharm el-Sheikh this week, he has given an interview to CNBC through which the Egyptian president says that he is against all the motions or all those who claim that there will be attempts for him to run for a second term or to extend the period of the presidency of each term. There were previous talks here in Egypt, mainly through some members of parliament who were hinting that they could move forward to amend the constitution so that President el-Sisi will stay longer. What he said is actually that he does not intend to stay longer. He asks everyone to respect the constitution, and he was very specific, saying that the Egyptian president should remain for only 2 terms, each term for a maximum of 4 years, as the constitution states. And if a president sits a day more than that, it is unacceptable, according to his personal statement during that interview. But he did not say explicitly that he will run for a second term. Previously, President el-Sisi says that he will only run once he finds that the people want him or there's a popular approval for him to run for a second term. And this is what has driven many of his supporters to rally for campaigns, gathering signatures of support during the past few weeks. And one of these campaigns claimed that they have gathered about 3 million votes. This is a similar movement to what has happened back in 2014, before he announced his candidacy. Also, he asked for the support of the people, through which similar campaigns were held to show him that there is support for him to continue. But it is highly expected, according all analysts and all political experts, that he will run for a second term, at least to continue what we have started of economic reform that he believes will put the country on the right path.
And indeed, of course, his term only ends in June next year. Still a long road to elections. Thanks very much, Adel Al-Mahrouky, live for us there in Cairo.